Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of whatever we call this show. We don't have a name for it, but it's your favorite, maybe not favorite, but at least in your top 50 podcast, movie peoples, Vic Azim, Nick Arcana.
When
Have
did
a
we get to top
special,
50?
well, we hung around the top 75 for about 5 years, and then I got the email notification like you guys have moved up into number 49. So we uh
I'd
we
rather
knocked
be
out the
69.
we knocked out the Troll 2 guys. There was some Troll 2 podcasters and we took over their place. So
Man, those guys sucked. I mean, come on. They kept talking about green chicken nuggets.
I mean, they made way too many Nilbog references for my taste, personally. Too many mentions of Nilbog. I mean, come on, it's just a movie. Get over it. It's not a real
I,
place.
I know,
Uh,
seriously. So too much also horny popcorn. Fuck.
Too much of that. Too much of that. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say we have a special treat for our audience today from the people that brought you Theories of Terrifier 2. Today we bring you Theories of Terrifier 3, a natural progression since this movie just came out. It's Christmas time. This is a Christmas horror movie, and Nick saw this one in theaters. And Nick is also a big time Terrifier fan. I mean, the man just we went to a horror convention back in October. The man, I saw him stand in line for
2 hours.
hours on top of hours to meet what's his name? I was about to I was about to call him Damien.
I mean, if he was there, I would have gotten an autograph from him too, but he wasn't. No, David
He was
Howard
supposed to
Thornton. Yeah, he was supposed to be.
be. David Howard Thorne. Yeah, I saw you sweating in line for 3 hours. I think I brought you a drink just to, like, because I felt bad for you,
You did.
and all that to have about 12 seconds with the man. And but you got his autograph, so it's all good. So it shows
And
you.
a picture.
Oh yeah. Yeah, not but you do have to get eventually, Damien's autograph too. He's the mastermind behind this whole thing, so
I plan on it if he's at the next convention. I've already bought the steel book for this movie.
mm,
And so I'm hoping to get him. I'll get David's uh, autograph again on the case, along with hopefully Lauren Lavera.
oh yeah. Yeah, 100%, yeah.
And if Victoria's Scavidi or Samantha Scavidi is there, I would get hers autograph too, but I doubt it. I haven't heard about her going to any of these conventions. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I've seen a couple videos where it was, like, David Howard Thornton, Damien, Laura, but they usually they're the ones typically I see, like, making the rounds, it seems, so
That's because they're the main characters, or they're the main people behind this movie.
oh, yeah, absolutely. So, anyway, so, of course, you saw this in theaters. I saw it at home. How was the theater experience? What was your before we get into, bigger thoughts on your second, third, repeated viewings. How was your theater experience? What kind of food did you get while watching the movie? Because there's a lot of sick stuff in this movie, but I know you have a strong stomach, so I'm curious about what kind of food you had while watching this movie.
Come on, man. I didn't have anything too crazy. I just had some buffalo chicken wings, a brownie, a giant brownie sundae.
Oh wow.
And the funnier thing was, I was eating the brownies. I got the brownie sundae. And when I sat back down on the seat, unfortunately, I did miss one little section. And it happened to be the funnier section. But I sat back down, got my brownie sundae, started eating it, and then the shower scene happened. I mean, it was all fine and dandy. I'm just sitting there eating my brownie. Someone next to me is just sitting there going, "Oh."
So it wasn't the movie itself, it was just like some dude to the sudden outside, he'd be like, "Oh." That this kind of movie is a movie that you probably wanna see in theaters, if not for just it makes the movie better, but just seeing the audience reaction in real time, getting the ahs and the ohs and the are people actually passing out and having drug out the theater and stuff? I don't know,
So
it
I can
sounds fun.
I can tell you, no one passed out. There
Mm,
actually really wasn't that big of a reaction to many scenes. There was only the one guy next to me going, "Oh," during the shower scene.
mm.
And there was one person though getting up and walking out, but then they came back, so I'm guessing they used the restroom.
Yeah, and the restroom can be used for certain things, but it can be used to throw up as well, so
Fair, but I know there was only 5 people in the theater when I went and saw it, so it was nice and quiet. There wasn't a whole lot of the college age or high school age girls screaming at the top of their lungs when just nothing really happens.
Hmm. Well, give us some quick background, though. Everybody probably knows this stuff. After the massively, well, let's say the success of Terrifier 2, which kind of came out of nowhere. People knew that, of course, Terrifier 1 was sort of a nice cult hit. It had a following, but nobody knew the following was that big. By the time Terrifier 2 came out, it surprised everybody with the money it was making at the theaters, launching Terrifier into a new stratosphere and putting the pressure to now do Terrifier 3, which apparently studios did approach Damien to want to, become partners in the movie, but he opted to not join up with studios because he thought the opening scene would be a no-go for the studios because he felt like it was a controversial opening. Now, I guess we should go ahead and just talk about the opening for a moment then in that case.
Yeah.
Was it controversial? Was it too far? Was it extreme? What was your take on it?
My take on it is it's nothing we haven't seen before. If you're a horror fan, you've seen this kind of scene. You know, kids usually are safe in most movies, but there are the select few movies where they decide to take it up a notch. They don't show the death of the kid, they just either imply it or they show the aftermath. Because overall, once a kid dies, then to your in your mind, it's like, oh well, who's safe now? You know, besides pregnant women, kids are the next thing in line to they are 100% safe. Pregnant women are actually at the top of the list to die. Um,
Well, certainly Jason in Friday the 13th Part 3 did not give a damn about that at all, so, yeah, I mean, one of my complaints about children horror movies is that a lot of times it kinda is like you don't fear for their lives because you assume that a lot of times they're gonna be safe, so it gives them they have kind of a built-in, protection there. Um, I didn't have a problem with the opening because exactly that, they didn't show anything. I think they showed it, it would have been probably a little bit too graphic, I think, for most people, but the way they did it was kind of like, "Okay, well, I think this is manageable." You're getting the
well,
point across without going over the top, so
well, I found out Damon Leone did say that the one line he refuses to cross is showing the death of a child. He says he has no problems showing the aftermath. He has no problems giving the sound effects. But the one thing he's not going to do is legitimately show the kid being chopped in pieces.
I mean, look, I think that would be too much for most people, especially people that are parents. I think that that would probably be traumatic. So I get that completely. That said, I mean, the opening scene is pretty dope. I mean, his inspiration here was the very first episode of Tales from the Crypt, amazing anthology show that we all know and love. Which I actually though haven't seen that first episode, so I have to go back and watch that. But it's Damien's favorite version of a killer Santa Claus. I guess had more of an impact on him than Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Christmas Evil. So that's where the inspiration came from for this opening scene. And this whole movie has a lot of horror references from other horror movies for sure.
Oh
So
yeah, because you get literally still in the first scene, you get the Shining reference of Art just busting through the door and then his head peeking through the crack.
yep, gotta have that. Um, so yeah, it was a cool opening scene. It was a little bit, setting the tone for what was to come. We got people getting hacked to pieces and establishing the Christmas tone here, the Christmas mode. Art dressed as Santa, so I was down for
So,
it. Now, after this though, I would say that, we do take a long time then to get into the story, but I guess we do have to catch up with Art and his shenanigans and stuff, so I get it.
oh come on, I don't think it took all that long. I mean, obviously the first one is to draw the audience in. Hey, this is what to expect from our movie, and then you get Art, the aftermath of part two. Art trying to get his body back, or his head back, and then getting Vicky out of the insane asylum because Vicky is now, spoiler alert, she's now our little pale girl.
Right. Okay, so let's theorize on that for a second. So basically, the little pale girl, to our understanding, whatever she is, whatever entity is, had brought Art back to life in part 2.
Yes.
And in this one, she's like, "Let me ditch the little girl's body and, take over Vicky's body."
Well, let's face it. As a little girl, she couldn't do much except
Mhm.
for, granted, she was powerful enough to manipulate their minds. to let them see whatever she wanted them to see. But
So literally was just maybe let me give Art like a sidekick who actually can physically get involved in the proceedings here, kind of thing.
yeah, and it's funny you say sidekick, considering the fact that we find out that the little pale girl, or Vicky, it's kind of very loose Vicky, because technically Vicky's dead this whole movie. But in a sense, the little pale girl is our main villain. Art's just there to do the killing.
Yeah, this entity thing is basically like, stumbled upon Art and is using Art to be the enforcer kind of thing. But this is all not Art's mastermind plan. This is the demon or whatever it is, his plan.
Yeah, but
And
I will say, allegedly, I
mm,
still don't see this per se, because it makes no sense on why they targeted Sienna in the previous movie. Because let's face it, in the previous movie, we don't get the lore we get in this. So the fact that the little pale girl is still wants to target Sienna and Jonathan makes no sense with the lore we got. What if, because we're supposed to believe that the Art the Clown still kills the little pale girl originally when she was a human.
mhm.
But the reason that makes no sense is why then go after Sienna and Jonathan before they know who they are or what they are.
Mm.
So it makes more sense if, say, the father of them and because we also find out in this movie he had some kind of premonition that Sienna was going to fight this terrible evil thing. So what if the father saw the little pale girl, and instead of being mad, because they said he was sick in the previous movie, instead of being mad, he killed the little pale girl in the hopes of trying to protect Sienna and Jonathan from what was to come, and inadvertently causing it to happen in the first place.
Very interesting. I like that a lot more, I think, actually. That makes more sense. Is it confirmed that Art killed the little pale girl? Do we know
Yes,
that?
so at least from what I've seen online, because I watched this movie with subtitles, it does not say Art killed the little pale girl. But a lot of
Mm,
people are saying online that this movie did confirm it, or maybe the creators and director confirmed it.
okay.
But to me, the movie doesn't give us much to go on still, and that still makes more sense if the father was the one who killed the girl. In which case, she now is not really a demon, but becomes such a powerful evil entity because of the rage she has for that father. Now wants to attack and kill Sienna and Jonathan for revenge.
And what do you think about so at one point, Vicky, tells Sienna basically like, "You're really strong. I see why they chose you."
So
Um,
that's in this movie we get the lore that Sienna is some kind of angelic warrior that the angels chose to fight this evil entity. In
uh,
which case, that's where it's now given us that apparently she is the only one who's able to stand up against Art and this entity that's taken over Vicky, that used the little pale girl as a conduit to come into our world.
yeah. She has, definitely I mean, especially when she fights them, you can tell that against them, she does have some amazing strength, resilience. They cannot easily get rid of her or do anything to her, it seems, so, um
Though I do like, I will say this: I do like the our entity's plan. I do think it's pretty freaking. It is actually pretty evil, because her plan is to, because they can't really be, because we found out also they can't be at full strength as long as she's around.
Right.
So something about her still is causing them to not be 100% what they want to do. So they're trying to get rid of her. However, Victoria wants to do it in such a way that she wants to, in a sense, break Sienna from the inside before killing her. So she's trying to
Mhm.
possess her the whole movie, which
And
I do
which makes
like.
sense. Yeah. Well, yeah, and also it allows them to basically torture her mentally instead of actually necessarily physically torturing her, you know, seeing loved ones be killed and things like that. It's like you can really like make her vulnerable, weaken her out. For the movie, it actually works great. But um, all right, let's rewind back a little bit. Okay. So the movie does have like a 5-year time jump,
Yes.
essentially. Was there Is there
I
a
think
reason
I
for
think I know
that?
why. Now,
They go into hibernation for 5 years for some reason?
yes, and I think I know why. One, Sienna was in a mental hospital, or from the sounds of it, she was actually on trial for the murders first.
Mm, yep.
Then she goes to a mental hospital for at least 3 to 4 years.
Mhm.
What I think it is, though, the reason the time jump is because Jonathan, the actor that plays Jonathan, got a growth spurt.
Ah,
Because remember,
okay.
he was fairly short in the
Right.
second movie, and now all of a sudden it looks like he's about as tall as me, if not taller. So
Mm.
he picked. So they're probably like, oh, we can't say a 13-year-old is now 7 feet,
And the movie really does focus on Sienna's trauma that she's going through.
which I do like.
Um, I like a lot.
However,
It would have been it would have been strong like, if the movie took place, like, a year later, though, obviously,
a little
it
bit
would have seemed
stronger.
like a stronger than the idea of, like, 5 years later, which, like I said, everybody deals with trauma differently, so it makes sense that she's still kinda going through it.
There's one
Um,
thing I like, but one thing I did, but I also didn't like this. It's their inclusion of Brooke in this. You know, constantly getting at Sienna for what happened to her. Obviously, Sienna's my conscious playing tricks on her, but then I'm thinking, this is the only time we see her.
mhm.
Why couldn't we either see Brooke multiple times in the movie messing with Sienna's mind, or maybe one scene have her mother show up, maybe another scene have the other friend show up. Just another scene have that boyfriend that got his penis ripped off show up. Just different things we could have been seeing to show her mind slowly collapsing still.
So I would think her mom would be the biggest, emotional impact on her, right? So, more so than Brooke, so,
Nah,
um
Brooke, I understand Brooke because she feels like she led Brooke to her death because she was the reason why Brooke and her boyfriend was there at the Terrifier that night.
she did lead to the death, yeah.
So
There's no question in my mind about that. They dead because of her. Yeah, it was
either way, so I understand why Brooke's there, but yeah, I still say they should have brought in multiple different people to kind of play with Sienna's mind more.
yeah. So on the flip side, while she's going through that, I guess in the immediate aftermath, Jonathan was like hardcore into the lore and like, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. But then at a certain point, he was like, I'm moving on my life. Forget this. I don't
Well,
believe any of this nonsense. I don't. What was Jonathan's like whole path the last 5 years?
first let's talk about where he got this lore from his father's his father's art book, and I'm thinking your dad was a comic book artist. This does sound like something a comic book artist would be telling in a story. Now it's making me wonder if the end of Terrifier 4, we're going to pan out off of a page and her father like closes a comic book as if we just got done reading it.
It was all a comic the entire time.
And then
Oh,
then Sienna shows up and goes, "Hi Dad, did you finish that comic yet?" It's like, "Yeah, I think it'll be great this time, sweetie."
the audience would be so pissed off if you had that lame ending where, like, he writes a title on the front. I just figured out the title, Terrifier. You'd be like people throwing brownie sundaes at the screen, like, ah, I'm disgusted by this. The only thing worse would be like Sienna wakes up and like it was all a dream. The whole thing was a dream. Yeah.
It leads us back to to her waking up at the end during that second movie, right before the fire goes up in flames. The wings went up in flames. Literally wakes up right there.
Um. All right. So you know what? A couple things I'll just touch on real quick. I'm not a fan of true crime podcasts. I mean, I don't know anything about them. Um, but is this
You
how it
know
is?
about it.
Like,
You might want to repeat that. You completely went. Blah, blah,
oh,
blah.
no, all right. Um, I personally am not like a huge fan of true crime podcast. I don't have any experience with them per se. I'm guessing this is kind of what it is. It's like people just like spending a lot of time analyzing a real life case in depth. But this seems pretty ridiculous. Like when she meets the person and the person just is it what's the girl's name? I don't know. But
Mia.
when Mia meets Sienna, it's like so weird. She's just like she's completely disregarding the trauma part of it and just like trying to get her to like, I don't know, like do something on her podcast or something. Like it's just
She's
really
she's trying
weird.
to have her as a guest on the podcast because I'm fine with true crime podcasts to an extent. You know, the whole analyzing and all this fun jazz you can have with it, you know, look through all the different evidence that is public record online. You know, you that's fine and all, but when you go to the victim and start literally trying to sweet talk them about the situation they nearly died in, yeah, you're going to have, and even Cole mentioned it when he was talking to Mia. It's like, yes, that is very insensitive. People do not want that shit brought up.
I thought Sienna was gonna slap her. I thought it was gonna be
She should have.
A Sydney slapping Gail Weathers moment because
Yeah, but then Mia
you
would
could tell
probably be in the
you could
next
see her
movie.
you could see her simmering. So
Yeah, but then Mia would have been in the next movie.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, she would actually probably got rich doing like writing a book about
Yeah,
the whole
she
thing. So.
yeah, she would have been attacked by Art, somehow got away, and then I guess somehow end up at the climax just to get knocked out. And then in the next movie, you find out she got rich because she survived Art the Clown.
Not to this is not necessarily shit on true crime podcast day, but also we should go ahead and mention that Halloween 2018, those true crime podcasters were responsible for that whole Michael Myers thing in Halloween 2018 also. So I'm just saying
Well, let's face
they
it,
don't
Michael
they don't do good horror movies. So
Art the Clown is one story. That one I kind of understand why a true crime podcast would go because that was a brutal event that happened twice in a 2 year span, in a like 1 to 2 year span. Whereas Michael Myers was once and only
40
what
years
40
ago.
that 4 people died in. Yeah. So
Yeah, nobody would have like that. Well, that whole thing was trying to have its cake and eat it too, like Michael Myers, the legend, but they're only going by part one. It's like, well, I don't know if he'd be a legend 40 years later. But anyways,
he
let's
wouldn't.
get back to Terrifier for a moment. So, um, since we're just throwing out broad strokes, do you have a favorite death scene in this movie?
So favorite death scene. Surprisingly, it is going to have to be the same death scene that David Howard Thornton actually said nearly made him vomit.
Mm.
And it's the one where the aunt got the rats down her throat.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mainly because that's the only death scene that actually made me cringe because rats going down your throat, eating the inside of your throat, trying to get out. Yeah,
Yeah.
but apparently, according to David Howard Thornton, the reason it's not really the rats that made him nearly vomit. It's the fact that fake vomit was shooting out of the aunt,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he can't handle vomit. But apparently, according to him, that scene was actually filmed longer. More vomit came out, and I think they said they shoved one more rat in before
Holy cow!
finally, like slicing her up, and 3 rats came out instead of 2.
Sweet Jesus! Wow.
Yeah, so they said that they originally filmed that scene to be much more brutal, but because they try to keep it at 2 hours at the most, they had to cut some things out.
Interesting. I love that's a good one. I love the whole, it's not just the death scene itself, but I love the whole. I was telling you about the whole bar scene with the Santa Claus. That whole setup. Because at first, he walks in and seems like it would have been fun to see him like sit down and have a drink with the guys and just like act like he's having a fun time. But it quickly goes south, and I did not see this coming. So,
well, oh,
although my only complaint was like the bartender was the one who seemed to be like had the most friction with him, and I don't know, he got
well,
kind of
let's face it.
turned
The
against him.
bartender has mostly seen some shit, so he's sitting there thinking a guy dressed like a demonic clown, and it's not even Halloween. No, so
Mhm.
I understand the bartender, but the one thing I have an issue with that scene is Clint Howard got a very light death with that kind of actor. And this could be because I know he played in a horror slasher called The Ice Cream Man.
Yep.
But I feel like they should have done more with his death to kind of have an Easter egg to the Ice Cream Man, like maybe force feed him a bunch of ice cream until he have it like acid ice cream,
Oh, that'd have been a nice,
or
a
maybe
fun,
or
yeah,
maybe somehow make like a liquid nitrogen snow cone and make them eat it and
that'd have
have
been
it
so
insides freeze. I mean,
yeah, now I'm, like, wishing they did something with ice cream, right. That'd have been such a fun nod, yeah, damn.
but no, they
What
just did a plain headshot, and I'm like, ugh.
yeah, what'd you think about so, when I was watching the scene, one thing that came to mind for me is that, the bartender obviously, throws Art towards the exit, and then they're like, Give him his bag and, let him get the hell out of here.' So he
Did you
throws
notice
him the
that it
bag.
took two people to carry the bag?
Yeah, so they give him the bag, and then they talk amongst themselves while Art slowly looks in the bag, pulls out the gun, shoots the bartender in the neck.
Right.
What would have happened if the 3 of them kept the bag on their side and looked into it, and Art's on the other side, and Art doesn't have access to his weapons? Now they're 3 on this side with the bag of weapons, and Art's on this side. What happens then? Because,
Well, here I got a
uh,
question for you. Now, if you were the director, how would you film the scene? Would you have them with their backs turned to Art looking in the bag, or would you have them facing Art looking in the bag? Because there's two different possibilities here with doing that. If they were facing away from Art looking in the bag, Art would have just ended up behind them, grabbed the bartender and Clint Howard by the head, slammed them together. Both their heads would have exploded.
well, yeah, that I think it's much more interesting if they look in the bag, and then they look up at Art, and Art's just standing there smiling, and then we're like, "What's gonna happen there?" There's 3 of them, they have access to the weapons, Art's, like, laughing on the other side of the room. It'd have been
I
interesting, like, what they do there, because like,
feel
then Art
like
has to
Vicky
rely
would have appeared at that point. Like Vicky would have came in from the back.
it's kinda like that whole if they don't they just gave the bag to them without really looking in the bag pretty much. But that whole scene's different if they look in the bag. First of all, even on the side of the room, remember the bag has a gun in it. They just one of them pulls out the gun. They have a huge advantage then. They have 3 people, they have a gun, they have a bag of weapons. I don't know if Art isn't just like, maybe like, "Ah, I'm gonna roll out, I'm gonna go ahead and leave." I mean, I don't know. It's just Art it almost like Art got lucky that they hand him the bag, and then they not only they hand the bag, they then, like, walk away and, like, don't pay attention to him digging into the bag. Um, but
Personally, I feel like they would have Vicky in that scene and make it like a tag team kind of kill. You know, while they're paying attention to Art, Vicky comes up and grabs one of them and starts tearing him apart. Then Art goes after the others, and the Clint Howard was you see in one scene, he pretty much a coward. He ain't going to do anything.
I would be mostly relying on the bartender to, like,
And the
pull out the
bartender's
gun.
the one Vicky
Yeah,
probably would have grabbed first.
yeah. Well, the thought came to my mind that it worked out perfectly for Art to just, like, cap the 2 dudes, and then but that was a standout scene. I actually liked it was very quick, but I like Chris Jericho's that scene just because like, I used to watch a lot of wrestling growing up, so I know Chris Jericho very well, so it's just fun to see him get killed on screen. Um,
Especially the way he did. I'm sitting there thinking because a lot of people had an issue with this, thinking, "Oh, how is Chris Jericho not fighting off this little girl?" I'm like, "Do y'all not see that she has him in the air? And technically, it's not like he doesn't fight back. He tries to swing on her. He does
and
swing on her twice,
they're thinking they're thinking of Chris Jericho, the wrestler, but in this movie, is just Chris Jericho, the hospital staff worker, right? So it's like,
right? So he's
uh,
not even security in this."
yeah.
Now, I will say one other thing before I get into these theories that I'm looking at, unless you have another theory you can think of. But I will say Ice Nine Kills has a music video based on this whole trilogy of movies,
Mhm,
and this song and their song "A Work of Art" actually can be heard when you first meet Cole and Mia.
mhm.
You know, Jonathan walks in; those two are making out. You can actually it's subtle because it's low, but you can hear it in the background.
Oh, nice. Okay. No, I mean, the only thing I was gonna comment on, is that I think both of us I mean, for me at least, the only big negative about the movie was, like, I was telling you basically, if Jonathan's actually dead, then I didn't like how that the whole ending kinda felt a little bit muddled. I wonder if he had to, like, edit some stuff out or something to get the because he was trying to get the runtime under 2 hours apparently based on the finance company wanted under 2 hours. So what if there's stuff edited out at the ending? Because the ending for a movie that's like, takes its time with stuff, the ending did feel a little bit rushed once things started happening at the end. But especially the whole Jonathan thing just felt kinda like out of nowhere, and then you're thinking like, "Okay," because I don't think we have a confirmation, like, is he actually dead or not, but I'm gonna assume he's actually dead and they just moved on from his character. But you would think that would be treated like as a much bigger thing, right?
Right. So I will say, so that's your negative. My negative, Jonathan's fate, Jonathan's death, air quotes. I'm saying air quotes because I personally don't believe that. But that death, it kind of goes in with the whole ending of it feels like there's something missing. And
Right.
you just said it. It's because they try to make it under 2 hours. They either didn't film certain scenes to make it that time length, or they took it out. But there's still something. There's like a whole chunk that feels like it's missing.
Yeah, and you can tell,
So
like, because usually, like, especially in the part 2, it's like felt like nothing was left on the table in part 2. It felt like, I mean, obviously, that's why we got that 2 hour and 20-minute, length, but yeah, the ending does feel a little bit out of like, off a little bit, so,
yeah, because
yeah.
it feels like there should be something between the uncle calling to try and get Jonathan, and then you hear that really weird voice coming through the phone, which is Vicky talking. Yeah, it feels like there should be a scene between that and Sienna's nightmare that she has. Like, honestly, you could have just taken out the nightmare, added like another little 5 minute section there, and it would feel more cohesive.
Yeah.
But I guess that would be the first theory that I'm curious on what you think of. So we see a blacksmith demon in Sienna's dream
Mhm.
being held by I'm thinking that's the angel Michael. Who do you think that do you think the blacksmith demon is just a legitimate demon, or do you think it could possibly be Sienna's father?
Hmm. Imma go with just a regular demon. I don't know what role the father's gonna play going forward, but clearly the father was aware of things
Apparently he
or
had
was
so
given a
what
premonition,
yeah, he
so
apparently had a premonition, but the reason I believe it could be her father is because because when we see him, he's actually pounding away, making the armor that the character Sienna's tried to embody in the previous movie looked like he was making that armor.
oh, right, okay.
So
Interesting.
that's the main reason why. And plus, there's something about it didn't feel threatening when it saw Sienna. It just screamed at her. It didn't feel threatening, and not just because the angel Michael like pulled on its reins. It felt more like a warning.
Mm.
Like you shouldn't be here, though you're probably going to end up here.
It's definitely possible. I have a feeling that, Damien probably did put stuff in the movie where it's like, this will make more sense later on, like little clues and things. Because I think he's someone who thinks ahead about like where the story's going and stuff. So I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that even if it doesn't make sense now, there's like a clue there where it's gonna make sense once they reveal something else later on. So
All right, so I got some theories here to throw out at you. So the first theory we got here is Gabby's fate.
Mhm.
Ooh. So anyone who doesn't know,
Well,
I don't know who wouldn't. Gabby fell into hellhole.
look, I hope that I'm assuming that the plot of the next movie is gonna be Sierra or Sienna. I
Sienna.
said Sierra.
Yeah.
Sierra Miss. I was thinking of Sierra Miss. That's why.
You miss Sierra Miss that much? It's
Oh
starry
man,
now, sir.
s such an underrated drink, but, um, Sienna's whole thing is gonna be and this is why I think Jonathan might actually be dead because I think the focus is gonna turn to her trying to go save Gabby pretty much. But if she travels to hell or wherever to get Gabby, you know who I hope she actually saves? Is the girl from Drag Me to Hell. The
No.
girl that was drugged down and dragged me to hell for no reason, did not deserve her fate.
No.
I hope Sienna grabs her and says, "Okay, listen, you're not gonna be tortured in hell forever. Let me bring you back."
No.
That's
So
that's what they
no,
should do.
because Drag Me to Hell sucks. Um.
What? Now that's
Yep.
blasphemy. Not the ending of this movie. That's blasphemous, all right?
Okay, let me read what it actually says here for Gabby's fate. Gabby falls into the portal to hell after taking Sienna's sword. Sienna vows to find her. Sienna has been to hell before and knows it's possible to return. When has Sienna been to hell? You can't count her dreams; those don't count.
I don't know.
I mean, I
Um,
guess it's technically. I guess technically, Sienna's hell is when she got stabbed with the sword in the second movie, fell into that pit of water, and had the vision about
oh
the
yeah.
Crown Cafe again.
So they're counting that, I guess. Okay.
I guess if you want to count that, I thought it was like a near death hallucination. But
I think
then again, where did that hole come from?
I don't I think Gabby will be okay. I'm sure she's chilling right now in hell with a pumpkin spice latte, just waiting for Santa to come get her.
well,
But I'm sure she's okay. I mean, I don't think they would have killed her off and killed off Jonathan in the same ending.
well,
Clearly, they transferred her big sister energy is now used towards Gabby instead of Jonathan, unfortunately for
well,
Jonathan. So,
here's another thing. Gabby could become the little pale girl. Some
oh,
horror fans have suggested that Gabby could become the little pale girl, and it's probably because when Sienna chopped off Vicky's head, there was another theory that said the demon Vicky or the demon that took over Vicky, created that portal to hell to go down there to try and save itself and let itself heal for the next encounter with Sienna. So
right.
since Gabby fell in the hole, the demon has access to Gabby now.
I think that would be a very cruel thing to do to Sienna.
This is
What?
David Leone we're talking about here.
This is a cruel franchise. So I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, I don't think it'll happen, but I mean, uh, it's on the table.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of a theory, and that is Art the Clown. So I'm assuming because she slit Art's throat before beheading Vicky, I'm assuming that means Art the Clown actually was still had his healing aspect before then. So the slit in the throat healed. But a lot of people are now thinking Art the Clown is human because Vicky was beheaded. However, it could also be that she either needs to behead him as a final deterrent against them, or it's possible that because the little pale girl could potentially have gotten to hell before fully dying, because if she really is a demon, going to hell is not exactly a death sentence for her.
Right, right.
Meaning that entity could still be given Art power to be able to stay alive, or Art just needs to get beheaded. One of the two.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, are we thinking that she has to be present somehow for like she could have given Art just the one time power to do his thing and then that's it. He's not relying on her going forward, or do we think he is currently still relying on her for him to be alive? I guess that would be the thing. So
I don't know, but here's another thing, and this one makes no sense because we get this lore in the movie. Sienna healing abilities could be due to her being immortal, like Art the Clown. The reason I don't know if you remember this, but during the lore drop of this movie, we hear that if she is cut up with her sword, that whatever cut she gets from the sword heals.
mm,
And that is true with this movie. We see the only cut she got from the sword was on her hands, and they healed. However, her busted up hands didn't heal. They were still kind of screwed. I'm assuming her broken shoulder didn't heal. All the slaps to the back of her head, giving her a concussion, didn't heal.
well, and but all that, and she still managed to fight off Art the Clown in a physical battle with a smaller weapon versus a chainsaw.
Well, I mean that's
How?
the other thing about the lore. Apparently, the sword cannot break.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that chainsaw would have broken that sword immediately.
My point is, it's her physical strength that's fighting off Art there. Art's using his physical strength, she's using her physical strength, and Art's like, "What the hell? She's stronger than me." Like,
It's
very
also It's also possible because she is allegedly a angel warrior that against the enemy she's supposed to take out, she does have extra power against them. But also
But that
remember, they don't have the same amount of power they could have while she is around too.
but to your point, it's like, what she does at the end is not possible if she does have, like, a broken shoulder and broken whatever, all that stuff's not possible to do that and then have that physical confrontation and seem like you're okay, so, I don't
Now
know.
she's got adrenaline.
I mean, such a lazy, cop out, like, "Yep, adrenaline."
No, that's fair, but that could be why. To your point, that could be why Victoria, instead of trying to kill her, is trying to possess her instead.
I don't think they can kill her, that's the thing, so.
So there's that, and that's honestly about it with the. Oh yeah, the only other thing is Jonathan alive. Some people think that he was just taken, and that the skull could be somebody else.
I don't think so, I think he's a goner, so because
I
I think that it just makes sense then that she's gonna put all her focus on Gabby in the next one, because now that Jonathan's gone, Gabby's the only thing she has left.
well, but
If
here
Jonathan's still alive, I feel like it divides that whole thing, so
not true because remember, here's the thing. What she's not guessing, not what she's not figuring out is the fact that, or not thinking about, sorry, is the fact that they've already lied to her once. Because remember, they said that skull was Gabby.
mhm,
Now they're saying it's Jonathan just because they put his glasses on him.
mhm.
It's possible they could be lying to her again, and it could be just so they can try and use. It could be he got out of there beforehand. Because let's face it, if my sister called me in hysterics after an event we just went through, telling me this man is alive and hearing people blew up at a mall, I'm not staying there. Fuck that. I'm out. Bye. I'm not waiting for my uncle.
Do you think, do you think Damien killed off Jonathan because he was like, "Listen, if this kid has another growth spurt, I have to do another time jump. I'm not gonna let his growth, him going through puberty, it's not gonna make me do another 3-year time jump." I mean, it's a possibility. He might be like, "Listen, let's just nip this in the bud right now." But
It's possible, but I don't think so. I think what it is Jonathan did is what I'm hoping is that Jonathan actually escaped. That skull is actually Cole's, which makes no sense now that I just said it. But the skull is Cole's or any of the other frat boys, and Jonathan getting the we're fucked call
mhm.
decided I'm not waiting for my uncle. I'm getting out of here because that would make more sense from somebody who survived an event and is now being told, "Hey, that killer's coming back to us."
Right. Now, if he is dead, what they should do is the next one, they should either have a flashback or a dream sequence where they show his death. You could easily, like, have that shown still, maybe, like, in the opening or, like, something where you do a flashback scene or Sienna has or is shown in her dream what happened to him. That'd be a way
Well,
to get around the whole killing him off screen thing.
that's fair because let's face it, the little pale girl. This is what I'm kind of surprised because since Vicky is possessed by the same entity as the little pale girl, or she is the little pale girl, she should have also inherited the same abilities, including mind manipulation. Why didn't Vicky show Sienna in her mind, "Hey, look what we did to your brother"?
Sienna saw that her mom was killed in part 2, remember?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, that's true. If the goal is to, like, torment her, then because we made the point too, is like, well, if you really wanna make her, like, you should bring Jonathan alive to the thing and then torture him there in front of her. Like, that seems like a very easy, I don't know, we'll see, I guess the Jonathan thing, we're gonna have to wait till the next one to really see what happens there, but that wasn't all part about the movie to me, at least, so.
Yeah, that's fair. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Um, no, I mean, I think I will definitely replace Jack Frost with this in my top 5 Christmas horror list.